Bonjour! Welcome to another episode of Cuisine de Michel. I am Michelle. So today we're going to be doing another episode in our Christmas goodies countdown. This is day 15, number 11. So this is a recipe I've actually made before. This is sponge candy. This is something that I really love. It's one of my favorite candies. Anyway, the recipe is from allrecipes.com, and it's a candy recipe, so we are going to need our candy thermometer, like you see here. And I've already put a half cup of regular sugar into the pan. To that, I'm going to add a half cup of brown sugar that is packed. 1 cup of light corn syrup. And 1 tablespoon of distilled white vinegar. Now, before I start anything else, I want to make sure that you have other things prepared in advance of this. So you're going to need a 9x13 pan lined with parchment. So I cut out the corners a little bit so it was easier to get it to lay down in there. And you also need to measure 1 tablespoon of baking soda and sift it. It is very important to have this ready and that it is sifted. Now that we've gotten all that preparation out of the way, we can actually start into this. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the burner. I believe it says for us to start this out at, okay, this needs to start out at medium-low. We're going to stir it up. So they can get combined. Okay, so make sure my candy thermometer is in the right position. Once you have this stirred together, you're going to leave it alone. You're going to be watching the thermometer, and we are watching for it to get up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, set your oven, mine isn't heated up yet, but you're going to set the oven to heat to 225 Fahrenheit. Okay, we have officially reached 300. I'm going to cut the heat and remove the counter and make a mess on the counter, and then dump in my baking soda, which I already told you about earlier. Stir that up, and you see that that changes the mixture a lot. So make sure you get it really stirred in there so it's all combined. And now we are going to pour that mixture into our prepared pan over here. And you do not spread it. Whatever it lands in there, just leave it the way it is. Don't worry if you don't get every single bit out of there. You're going to have plenty of candy anyway. You're now going to transfer this to the oven. We're going to let it bake at the 225 degrees for 10 minutes. Then you're gonna lower the temperature to 175 degrees Fahrenheit and bake for an additional 10 minutes. Okay, so you can see that I have removed this from the oven now, and it did spread out somewhat, so I wanted you to be reassured that that's why you don't have to worry about spreading out, but also you don't want to disturb the mixture too much by doing that. We're going to set this over here on the cooling rack and let it cool completely before taking it out of the pan. Okay, so now this has been resting for quite a while. You can see it's totally solid. I took it out of the pan. And I've got a double boiler ready here, and we're going to be putting in, so this, I'm using the Lindt Excellence. I'm not sponsored or anything, I'm just telling you this is what I like to use. And I'm going to use 3 of these bars that are like this. You need somewhere around this amount, but only 2 of them are what we're going to start with, because what we're doing here is tempering the chocolate. And that means that we're going to have it to where it will set better. It won't be, it'll give it a nice sheen and things like that. So this is what you want to do whenever you're trying to dip chocolate, or dip things in chocolate, and you want it to set a little bit better. So into the boiler, double boiler top, I'm going to put in 2/3 of whatever amount. And for these, if you like milk chocolate, you could do milk chocolate, but this is the method for doing dark chocolate. So just break that into pieces to make it easier to melt. And then I want to bring this to a temperature of 110 degrees. So once it starts melting, then I'm going to get my thermometer so that I can bring it up to 110 degrees. Okay, so once you've got it up to 110, you can even go 115. Just make sure you don't burn your chocolate. If you have it over the water like that, it really shouldn't get too extremely hot. But over here, you're going to let it rest for just a minute. And then you're going to add the remaining bar of chocolate into it. After this rest, you can take the temperature and see what temperature it's gotten to, but you would want to get around like 95 degrees or so. And then you can put this in. It will finish melting. You'll be able to stir it in because there still will be some residual heat there. And then your chocolate will be ready for coating. Right, so now what you're going to want to do, and I've already done one piece just to test, but take a knife, and it doesn't have to be a sharp one, this is just a butter knife, and a mallet, and you're going to want to tap this, just so, and you're going to end up with these little chunks of the candy that you're going to be coating. And it doesn't matter about the shape. You're not, unless you're some kind of really talented, you're not going to be able to get this into perfect chunks. And that's not how sponge candy is supposed to look anyway. Once you have a chunk like that, and your chocolate needs to be around 95 or even slightly less, as long as it's still liquid and you can coat with it, that's the most important part. So I'm going to take a piece of the candy, just dip it through, get it all coated. And then put it back out and let it set until it is completely dry. Okay, so here we are at final plating. And full disclosure, I ended up needing a little bit more chocolate than what I showed with the Lindt bars. I had forgotten that those are actually only 3.5 ounce bars instead of 4 like I had in my brain, because the recipe it says on my recipe that it's 12 ounces of chocolate you need. This might have been a little more than that even, so you may want to have a whole pound of chocolate on hand, especially if you cut them up a little bit smaller like what I did here. Anyway, you can see they turn out great. I already know how these taste, so I don't need to do a taste test, but I can tell you that even though they're crunchy, they have a tenderness to them. And if you get this kind of candy that's already made, like stored sometimes at places that make chocolate, it tends to be a bit harder inside. I don't know if that's because of it sitting on the shelf or what happens, but this is nice and tender and flaky. I even kept, there are just a couple pieces I didn't have enough chocolate for, but I wanted to show you a good view of that texture that we have there, the sponginess, and that it is indeed very, very flaky and tender. It's very nice. So I hope you'll give it a try if you've never had it before, because it's awesome. And please join me again for another episode, which we'll have another one tomorrow, of Cuisine Michel. Also give a nice like there, subscribe, and leave a comment, and tell your friends, share it with them. And we'll see you next time. Au revoir.